Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Center for Accessibility at the DC Public Libraries, which is a new and temporary space for the DC Public Libraries while we are building our new center at the Martin Luther King Library. So I want to thank our Chief Librarian, Richard Reyes Gavlin, and all of our DC Public Library staff who are here, who have transitioned from MLK, who are serving our residents here on 19th Street and other locations. Please give them a round of applause. I commend the Center's ongoing work to help DC residents with disabilities more easily access program services and the collections of our incredible library system. I also would like to pause for a moment. I think we have all been following the news of this morning in shock and sadness and disbelief. Certainly our hearts and prayers go out to those who are injured in a shooting this morning in Alexandria, Virginia, where a member of Congress was shot. And we understand that there have been Capitol Police officers injured in the line of duty and a congressional staffer who was injured. We understand that several people involved in that incident are undergoing treatment, and I think they're undergoing treatment in the District of Columbia. So we would like to pause to remember them and be reminded of the difficult and dangerous work that our first responders do each and every day. We actually thought about putting off this morning's presser, but we thought it was very important because we are also talking about keeping DC residents safe. Today, I am joined by our very excellent Director of the Office of Unified Communications, Karima Holmes, who we recruited. We stole her from Texas to work on DC's 311 and 911 call center. And I just want to commend her for the work that she's doing to modernize our system, to invest in our employees, and to better communicate with DC residents. I also want to acknowledge our very excellent Fire Chief, Gregory Dean, who is here. We stole him from the other Washington out west. And I tasked him with transforming our fire and emergency medical service with a focus on improving emergency medical services in the District of Columbia. We're also joined by Assistant Chief Kimberly Missouri, who is here to represent the Metropolitan Police Department, who is on the other end of a lot of these 911 calls. So let me just say this. Every day, thousands of community members and government employees work behind the scenes to keep DC running. And over the next several weeks, we are focusing on those key services and the people providing those services that make DC run, that help our city really hum with the activity of the daily lives of our residents. And we're focusing on the basics. And we're also focusing on how community members can help government provide the basics. So you're going to be hearing us talk about back to basics DC and initiatives that will help keep our city moving and advancing and as dynamic as it is. We're celebrating the progress we've made as a city and sharing information about how the government and community can work hand in hand to advance this progress. And one critical way we are moving forward is modernizing our emergency response system. Let me tell you a little bit more about our emergency response system. We received 60,000 more 911 calls this year than we did last time this year. And that's why we're continuing to make key improvements to our 911 and 311 call operations. So it shouldn't be a surprise. A city that is growing by 900 people a month, businesses growing, businesses moving into areas where they haven't been before. the activities and number of visitors increasing year over year means we get more people that need our help. So we have to make key investments in 911 and 311. Over the last 2 years, this is what we've done. We've strengthened our 911 team by adding 41 additional call takers, 26 dispatchers, and this has helped us reduce our 911 response time. We hadn't hired like this at the 911 and 311 call center in more than 8 years. Additional teams are training now. Another thing that we've done, residents can submit requests for city services and chat with a live agent by visiting 311.dc.gov or calling 311. Last year, we also hired an additional 35 311 call takers from a new job program that I created that hires DC residents for DC government jobs. And that program is called LEAP. And today, we're building on this important work. Some examples of when it would be appropriate to use the new service that the director will tell you about include a person who is deaf or hard of hearing to text 911. Someone who has sustained an injury that prevents them from speaking may also text 911. If you are a victim of a crime such as assault, robbery, or domestic violence, and the perpetrator is still in the area, you can also choose to text 911 to get the important help that you need. We should all be concerned, and this is why my administration is seeking to make additional investments in our technology, because our city actually has an outsized number of 911 calls. On average, DC 311 receives between 4,500 and 5,000 calls per day. That is 1.8 million calls a year. Our 911 operators answer between 3,500 and 4,200 emergency calls every day. Our 911 call takers and dispatchers are critical to our public safety, and we need to make sure that they have the tools that they need. So now I'm going to ask Director Holmes, who has just about done every job that there is in a 911 call center, and now she leads one of the busiest 911 call centers in the world. And so I want to introduce Director Holmes.
Thank you. And thank you, Mayor Bowser. I would like to take a moment to extend sincere gratitude to you from myself and my team. Your insight and leadership and support of the Office of Unified Communications is definitely ensuring that the agency receives the resources that were needed to do just these type of enhancements to our system. We're proud partners of the mayor and the Safer, Stronger DC initiative. And this new service that we're offering is a result of series of partnerships that have erected over the last couple months. And I'd like to acknowledge some of those partnerships now. First, I'd like to recognize our dedicated partners at Gallaudet University, who we hosted about a month ago to review this text to 911. And we thank you for your input and direction. Yes. Also, our partners at FCC, who has been leading the way with the national industry for 911 emergency communications, particularly David Firth, who's the Deputy Director of Public Safety and Homeland Security with FCC. Also, we'd like to thank our public safety partners, MPD, FEMS, HSEMA, and others who have continued support in the efforts to make Washington, D.C. safe and secure. I want to do a special thank you also to the Office of Disability Rights for their support in this initiative, and also Director Michelle Garcia with the Office of Victim Services and Justice Grants. These are the populations that we really wanted to target with this new initiative, so we're very pleased for these partnerships in what we have here. Text to 911 would give people a new platform to reach emergency services here in the district. But it represents a lot more for OUC. Text to 911 is another evolution which is tagged on to Next Generation 911 and its greater opportunities to serve our citizens. As we announced Text to 911 today, I can tell you that we've already made a lot of major upgrades in the Office of Unified Communications, and we will continue with these upgrades just to make sure that our nation's capital is the nation's capital 911 center. Soon, you will be able to send photos, videos, and data over our 911 system, which will make it easier to send this data, photo, and videos out to our responding officers and firefighters so they can have the information they need even before they arrive to a scene. Technology is evolving quickly, and we want to stay abreast to it, and we must be able to keep up. But you can have all the bells and whistles of Text to 911, and it would be nothing without training. And in the last couple of years, along with the mayor's support, we have ramped up our training and our quality assurance in the agency, where the agency is seeing training that it has never seen before. We established a training and quality assurance division that is responsible for training incoming employees, incumbent employees, and also monitoring our calls and making sure that we're doing exactly what we're training. Washington, D.C. is a leader in emergency communications. We are among a very few number of emergency communication centers that offer Text to 911. Just under 15% of the near 7,000 911 centers offer Text to 911 at this point. And Text to 911 is already paying off. Recently, in the last month, MPD was able to arrest a person that was in a house unwanted, and the resident didn't want to call 911 and verbalize the emergency, so they text 911. We were able to get that information, send it over to the officers over the radio. They responded, and the suspect was apprehended. I also read recently in Michigan, a rape victim was still in the presence of her rapist, and she texted 911, and officers were able to respond within minutes and arrest this rapist. We expect to see more examples like this and how Text to 911 would benefit those in need. But remember, call if you can, text if you can't. Before I close, I would like to take this opportunity to thank my employees and my team at OUC. Thank you for your continued support of me and continued support of the endeavors and the evolution that is going on right now at OUC. I'd also like to thank the Deputy Mayor, the Mayor again, the City Administrator's Office for their commitment to public safety here in Washington, D.C. I am confident we will not just keep up with emerging technology to keep our city safe, but we will lead the way. Thank you again. I'm going to turn the podium over to Ms. Greta Gordy-Gartner. She's the Deputy Director with the D.C. Coalition Against Domestic Violence. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you, Mayor Bowser, to our Deputy Director. I'm Deputy Mayor, I apologize. I have a new title, so I get excited, right? Director Holmes, and to Director Garcia and all of the staff who brought Text to 911 a reality. I thank you on behalf of my Executive Director, Karima Holmes, the D.C. Coalition Against Domestic Violence, and all of our members for the invitation to be here today. Text to 911 is a shining example of meeting people where they are. This has been a cornerstone of our philosophical approach to meeting the needs of those who suffer harm by those who say, I love you in one moment, and yet use physical, spiritual, financial, and emotional abuse the next moment. Community-based programs and the legal system ardently try to keep victims and survivors safe and hold abusers accountable, but it's difficult to do so when so many domestic violence incidents go unreported. We know that 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men have been victims of some form of physical violence by an intimate partner at some point in their lifetime. The National Network on Domestic Violence's one-day census reports that on September 14, 2016, 68 hotline calls were answered in just one day. That's 2.8 hotline calls every hour. That's 68 people who were in crisis. Over the past several years, Metropolitan Police Department has averaged 35,000 domestic violence-related calls. So if we follow the statistics I just stated, there may be approximately 175,000 domestic violence victims in the district. Can you imagine how many more people will be helped when they can ask for help without the fear of being overheard by their abuser, without having to cry for help in front of your children, loved ones, neighbors, or even strangers? We are so proud to collaborate with the Mayor's Office, the OUC, OVSJG, and our collective endeavor to make a stronger, safer DC. Text to 911 means meet survivors where they are, because we know that not every survivor gets to make that call. Sometimes it's safer to send a text secretly than to risk more abuse or even death. Sometimes speaking is not even possible when your abuser has strangled you to the point that you are hoarse and you cannot tell a 911 operator what just happened. Texting allows you to tell your story. Sometimes a survivor may have a disability that hinders immediate connection and prevents effective communication when crying out for help. We also know that women ages 16 to 24 are most likely to be victimized by an intimate partner. This generation lives for technology and social media. This is their primary means of communication, sharing, and help seeking. Text to 911 meets them where they are. Only about half of domestic violence incidents are reported to the police. Text to 911 provides another option for those who are suffering abuse by loved ones to ask for help. DC cares. DC understands the needs of the community. Technology is ever changing the landscape of how we live and how we communicate. Let's use text to 911 to lend a hand to stop abuse and homicides and send an unequivocal message that domestic violence will not be tolerated in our fair city, not now, not tomorrow, not ever. DC will continue to evolve, as Director Holmes said, and respond to abuse with whatever it takes to be a stronger, safer DC. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Okay, demonstration.
Okay, so now we're going to do a short demonstration of what text to 911 looks like on the caller's end or the texter's end. Alan?
So we're going to alert the 911 center that this is a test. And we can test the text directly to 911. Get their attention. So what will happen is there's a little bit of a lag time. It's like the phone ringing in the 911 center.
Right.
And okay, so we're going to say this is.
Yeah. So the test copy just came from one of my operators at the center right now.
Acknowledging that they've received the text, so we are connected now by text message.
Right.
This is the mayor's press. My fingers don't are not designed for this phone. So, and we can say something like we are requesting fire trucks.
Fire trucks. Send the fire trucks. And so this is a good example, basically, some of the key pointers to make sure, other than call if you can, text if you can't, I will drive that home, is that you use as much plain language as possible. This is definitely the message. And there you go. You have DC 911. What's the exact address of the emergency, including sector? This is exactly how we answer the phone if you were to dial 911.
Alan, you want me to type it?
You know,
Out.
and I also lost my glasses too. So. Stupid autocorrect.
But we're 911 operators. We will be able to decipher this. But I think here we just wanted to show you how it works. Yeah, it's not an outlier. This is how it works. Right now, the industry is working on real-time text that is not in fruition right now across the states. Whereas you're texting, you can see it. But we did want to just let you know how it works. Are we done? You see smoke? They're going to keep going, you know.
I know.
Test is over.
Are they going to say when they dispatch or something like that?
Yeah, they would say, help is on the way. They're configuring the dispatch.
Yeah.
They will tell you help is on the way.
And Mayor, what we have in the center is we do have pre-put messages in our system, and so certain things will come up exactly like that. Help will, CPR instructions, birthing instructions, all of that is already put in.
Okay.
Yes.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alice. Okay. All right. We are happy to take a few questions if there are any questions. Yes, sir.
So I was wondering, with this text to 911, is it only like for DC residents, or can they incorporate that? Because I'm actually a Fairfax County resident in Northern Virginia, so I didn't know if they were incorporating that through like the rest of the area or not.
Well, certainly, let me first talk about our Fairfax residents and others while they're in D.C. And because, you know, our city grows from about 680,000 to over 1 million every weekday. And so we want all of our regular visitors who are commuters and working in D.C., but as well people who are visiting us from other states in the world to know about text to 911. And I think the director can tell you about our regional partners.
Sure. Thank you. Yes. So Fairfax County does have text to 911. They went live in 2015. As the mayor mentioned, yes, even if you're a resident, you're here in D.C., text to 911 will work because it hits our network. I would also like to add that we did go soft live with this about six months ago, and we had it live during the inauguration and the Women's March because we knew we had residents that were coming into the district that may have been in jurisdictions that had text to 911 at the time, and we actually did receive one text message at the time. A lady, she was in a wheelchair and she was at the Women's March, and she was pretty much getting pushed, and she got nervous, and so she texted 911. We communicated with her, but the problem got rectified before we actually had to dispatch. So, yes.
Okay.
Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Get location without actually having to type that in. I'm thinking sort of about a domestic violence survivor that can only text to 911 and then...
Right. So there's different levels to location accuracy. The location accuracy we're seeing with text to 911 mirrors the same that we get with calls from 911. Cell phones are a little shaky. Sometimes they do work, and then sometimes we do get the tower location. But we do have methods in place in the center that if something is a true emergency, we do realize that there's a domestic violence or any other incident going on, and the person cannot give the address. We have relationships with carriers. Sometimes we get Latin long coordinates, and we can plug them in, and we can get addresses their way. So we have other methods in case the address does not show up.
Okay. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Please continue to look at our Library Express. Yes.